This is the Night Owls Disc Golf Podcast. I'm Shane.
And I'm JP.
And we also have on the line Ben. Ben, say hi.
Hey, how's it going?
So, hopefully the audio's good. I lost my dongle. I don't know where the dongle went. And what a dongle is a 3.5 jack that goes into an iPhone so we can put it on the pod tracker. So we have it precariously perched next to a microphone. And hopefully this conversation is going to go well with Ben, because I think he's going to have a lot to offer what we're going to talk about. But before we get to that, remember, throw@doordisc.com is our email address. door_disc_golf. And then also, JP, you want to hit him with the Night Owls podcast?
Yep, it's night_owls_pod.
All right. So for both of you, Ben and JP, we'll go with JP first. How do you feel about Walmart?
Go there quite often for groceries when we're going grocery shopping in Sturgeon Bay, because that's the nearest Walmart.
Yeah.
Or we will, kind of divvy stuff up between Walmart and Target.
Yep.
Yeah, so we frequent it quite a bit.
So you're for it? You're about it?
Yeah, I'm about it.
Okay.
I think we just kind of split. There's certain things at certain stores that are a little priced but a little better, and then other stores have, more competitive prices. But yeah, I'm about it.
All right. How about you, Ben? How do you feel about Walmart?
I kind of have a mixed relationship, I'd say, with Walmart. I'm not necessarily against Walmart. It's just the nearest Walmart to me in Green Bay is in a very large kind of shopping area within Green Bay on the west side. So it's just very chaotic all the time. So it's not somewhere I frequent often, but I'm not anti-Walmart in the way that most people are anti-Walmart.
Sure. All right. So the reason I asked this question is, how do you feel about the Walmart of disc golf? And I'm going to bring it up to, say, Latitude 64. Latitude 64. So Latitude 64. So they are becoming the Walmart of disc golf. And here's the reason why. Not in cheapness. Don't think of cheapness.
No, I'm not.
But just in every way, shape, and form, they are buying up as many plastic companies as they possibly can.
I suppose, yeah.
So who do they have? Castaplast now. Mm-hmm. They have all the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. Who did they just buy? Anyways, there's a couple other brands.
Well, Castaplast is the one that I thought of that they recently bought. I mean, they were helping make Discmania.
Yeah, and they're involved with Discmania as well.
Right.
Now, Discmania says that they're molding their own, but
not the Neo stuff yet.
Not the Neo, exactly.
Right, yeah,
But to say, Ben, have you held the new Lucid compared to the new C-Line from Discmania?
I haven't recently. I mean, I've held Lucid in the past, but not as of super late.
Okay.
I do know that just going back to JP's point, Discmania has used a lot of the designers from Latitude 64 for a lot of their newer molds and the retooling and kind of all their new business pushes on that sort of things. So
yeah, I think they're very open about it. But if you hold the new C-Line and the new Lucid, they're the same plastic.
Right, they say they're using that Italian plastic, but like the ice plastic, it's really, really close.
Very similar.
Yes. And
do you remember, JP, this is for you. You remember in the shop when we had, what I think they were Raiders that came in, the very first Lucid Raiders, the new Lucid Raiders. They were like ice Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
They were the blue and the red ones.
Yep.
That was Italian blend plastic. Through and through, without a doubt.
Right, even like the new Ricky Evaders and the same stuff. I think the was it Macy Valadi or Macy? What's her name? Is it Valid? Oh, Macy
Valadius, yeah.
Those Lucid, I think they're Lucid X Justices are like really close as well.
They're very close.
Yeah,
but those are Lucid X Ice Justices.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm asking is, do you have a problem with a single company being kind of taking over everything and being like the beauty of disc golf right now is you have so many different plastic types, and you have so many different plastic manufacturers or so many disc manufacturers that use so many different types of plastic right now. Yes, there are little conglomerates of like MVP does a few, Innova does a few, obviously Lat 64 does a few, Prodigy probably pushes a few out there. But do you have a problem with them coming under one banner?
Well, I don't know. That's kind of an interesting question. I think like in the I'll use Casoplast as an example. Their K1 plastic is really awesome. Like the feel of it, the gumminess and everything. As long as they can kind of produce the same plastics that a company is like originally kind of known for, and they don't get away from that. Like they can mold the discs in that plastic. I really have no problem with who's kind of making it. I mean, I wish it was the original company, but
Right.
it is what it is.
Right, exactly. I don't think there's anything we can do to stop it. So how about you, Ben? What do you think?
I don't have a problem with it right now. I think only time will tell. I think the way that I look at it is very similar to kind of craft beer in a way, that there are larger companies buying up craft breweries, smaller breweries, and nothing's really changing within the brewery itself, but they're just, providing them additional resources, helping grow the company. So in my eyes right now is the way I see it. I see Lab 264 providing additional resources to some of these smaller companies, maybe in Europe, who don't have access to get into the States yet. So I don't have a problem with it if that's kind of the way that it's going. But if they're starting to just kind of create a monopoly, I think that's obviously a different conversation.
Right. Wow, Ben coming in hot. I like that. I agree with you, Ben. I think it gives resources to companies that otherwise would not have them. But I do worry about the feel of plastics becoming kind of monotone.
Right, like everything's just starting to feel the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because right now you can sometimes pick up discs, and even as a fairly amateur player, I can pick up a disc and know basically what the plastic's going to be and who it's molded by. Whereas if you continue to have one umbrella that stamps these discs or molds these discs, it's gonna get less and less of that uniqueness between those discs, and those plastic blends are going to become less and less. Now, you may not have the flashing issues of Prodigy anymore. You may, there's things like that, like
right.
the inconsistency of Gateway's plastic, like those type of things. Like, I'm sure it'll get rid of a lot of that stuff, but man, that dark side of it as well. Like, I don't want to hold the same plastic for every mold. I mean, same plastic for every disc.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing, because at one point Lucid was the premium plastic, in my opinion. I mean, I think even above Champion because of the consistency of it, of flight characteristics. And I think it's becoming, I think it still is, but I think when you're adding the C-Line into it now, and then Casoplast is, what's their premium?
Well, K1.
Is K1, they're similar to?
It's like Star Plastic.
Okay.
But they don't really have, I mean, K1 is like K1 soft, like K3, K3 hard, K3 soft. Like they used to have K2, but that became K1 soft. So like K1 is like their premium plastic.
Okay, so they don't have a Lucid comparison.
No, because sometimes the K1 will come out a little more transparent than like, it's really odd.
Okay. So they probably will now, though.
They could.
Yeah, potentially. So, all right, that's all. I just wanted to see how everybody was feeling about that. All right, so what we're going to do, since Ben is on the phone, we're going to go straight to thrower, hanger, or flipper. Now, Ben, how that works is you tell us what you bought this week, if you bought anything, and whether you're going to hang it on a wall for display, you're going to flip it, turn it around, make some money on it, or you're going to throw that thing. Do you have anything you bought this week?
Nothing this week. The last couple things I got were from the Lone Star drop, so the tumbleweed is what I'm going to be looking forward to. So I'm going to throw it, of course, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that flies.
All right. All right. Oh, and that was one of the ones that I dropped off to you after the or before the tournament, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. How about you, JP?
I also bought some Lone Star discs. I bought a Glow the MIDI.
Yeah.
I bought a Dos Equis or Double X.
Yeah.
And then I also bought a Texas Ranger, which is like a Buzz.
Yep.
But it's got a beat on it, which is kind of interesting.
And they just released the Walker,
Yep.
and
They had some other mold that I saw that was approved, but I forgot what it was called.
yeah. So the Walker is supposed to be a EMAC, basically
I think
straight
so.
flyer. So, so I also purchased, and all of these are throwers because we used them for a YouTube video. I purchased a Culprit. I purchased an Armadillo because we did a thumb track.
Oh, yeah, I saw that
showdown.
in their shop.
Yeah. We did the Armadillo, and then and a Banger GT. I don't know if you've ever thrown any of the Groove Track stuff.
No, not any of Discraft's Groove Track stuff.
Fantastic.
Really?
It is such a glidey disc. Have you ever thrown a Banger GT, Ben?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It is one of the most glidey discs I've ever,
Okay.
one of the most glidey putters I've ever thrown in my life.
Interesting.
I fell in love with it. I probably threw it 25 times, and
Yeah.
it just dead straight. Just a beautiful disc. So, yep. And all of them will be throwers because we already threw them. So, and actually, if you keep an eye out on the YouTube channel once we launch it, those will be giveaways.
Awesome.
So,
I heard the, was it the Vector 2 or Vector 1 plastic floats? Is that right?
both Vector Plastics float.
Okay.
Yeah. So for Lone Star, Vector Plastics float, and then they have Bravo, Glow, and Alpha.
I was going to say Alpha,
Yeah.
but I don't know what Alpha plastic is. I think I just have the Bravo plastic.
Yeah, I think there's Bravo and Glow. I didn't get many Alpha. I didn't think
Okay.
they had many of them at the time. So, yeah, so there you go. So the preview of the day. So we're going to go over a listener bag analysis. So we do have one listener that we'll go over. We actually got quite a few of them, so thank you very much. What we're going to do is walk through what you have in your bag, and we'll probably tell you to send some to us, and we'll fill in the gaps after that. And then from there, we're going to talk about Portland. Awesome tournament. I actually got to watch quite a bit of it at this time, and I killed it on the women's picks. I'm not so much on the men's picks, but you did pretty well on the men's picks.
Did I?
Not too bad. You got Simon.
Yeah.
But, and then we'll have our tournament talk with Ben, and then we'll jump into random questions, shop updates, which actually we'll skip that because there is no shop updates this week. I actually didn't buy any discs other than tomorrow, the Sky God 4. So I'll pick up some of the Sky God 4s tomorrow, but outside of that, haven't done really anything else. So with that, let's jump into... You know what? Let's go straight to the tournament talk, Ben, if you're ready for it.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. So for some setup here, so we had the Pine Crest Am Flex. So it was an Am only tournament, and it was a flex start. And we ran it at, or Ben, I got to take the we out of this. Ben ran it at Pinecrest Park in Howard. Howard seemed to be fantastic to work with. Am I correct on that, Ben?
Absolutely. They were a dream to work with. Very easygoing. Just said, here's the rules. Here's what we expect. Go do it and have a good time. And
Great.
It was just filling out a couple pieces of paper, going to a meeting, and that was it. All they asked is just keep us in the loop as to what's going on. So
Great.
Howard was awesome to work with, and we'll work with them again in a heartbeat.
Great. And have you had any feedback since the tournament yet from Howard?
Yeah, I talked to the rec director, and he was kind of following along, and ended up stopping by and just kind of driving by and seeing all the cars out there in the afternoon. And he told me that he stopped by and just said everything looked great, and he hoped that we had a successful tournament, and just said to keep him in the loop if we ever wanted to do it again. And so it doesn't seem like they had any reservations or anything. Just being out there, and hope that we continue to do good things.
That's fantastic. You love it when communities actually get behind the effort that happened, because a lot of times communities will, and I don't want to speak ill, sometimes communities will put the course in and then that's the end of their involvement. not the end of their involvement, but that's kind of where their support stops. So it's fantastic to see that support is continuing through even after the tournament. And they're even excited to see some more stuff. So that's great. So we had 101 participants. Is that correct?
Yep, 101. We figured it didn't make sense just to leave one person on the wait list, so we bumped them up. So 101 people out there. Really, really good mix of divisions, I would say. A lot of good numbers across the board.
Yeah, and 13 in MA3, is that or 39 in MA3, is that correct?
39, yeah.
Yeah. And that's a great division. Now, did you end up playing in this, Ben?
No.
Okay.
As much as I wanted to, I figured that for the first one, just to make sure that everything was going to roll smoothly, that I'm also a little bit of a control freak as well, so I just wanted to make sure that everything was running smoothly and good to go, so I elected not to play in this one.
Okay. Well, that's good too. I mean, when doing tournaments, I think the best tournaments come from planning, and then when you're done planning, make sure the planning's done, and then plan again, and then make sure that planning's done, because there's nothing worse than showing up to a tournament and it just seems like nothing's put together and everybody's in a tiss trying to figure out stuff as far as the directing staff goes or the tournament staff goes. And I think you did an amazing job making sure that was done. So let's get into kind of the back end of it. So everybody played, everybody seemed to have a good time. We had a couple questions prior to that seemed to be resolved. I don't know if they ever came up to you again. And I think it was just more of a clarity issue. Hey, what are you doing with the money? So very nice. It was one of those things where you and I kind of had a conversation and I came to the realization like, hey, we just need to be transparent with what we're doing with this money. So we were. And so with that being said, what are some of the things that you learned from this first experience?
I would say the biggest thing that I learned, and I should have learned it really early, is that you just can't please everyone. And I know you mentioned this on another podcast, is that I wanted to come in and really put on the best tournament I could from a player standpoint. I came in with a player standpoint, and I wanted to just make sure that all the players are happy. But from a TD standpoint, I had to learn real quick that just wasn't feasible. There was always going to be somebody that had an opinion on something, what should have been in a player's pack, how the tournament should have been ran, should it have been 2 days, should it have been 2 rounds, just all these little things that always just come up. People always have their own opinion but never want to do anything about it, I guess is one way to put it, but I think that was just the biggest thing that I needed to kind of get over very quickly was you just can't please everyone, and that's just the way it's going to go. It doesn't matter if you're running, a pro tour event or you're running a local C tier, somebody's always going to say something, and you can't please everyone. Right.
I think that's something that I was able to learn fairly early in business, is that as long as we stay true to what our rally cry is, or what our focus, what our motto, what our mantra, whatever cliche statement you want to use to describe that, as long as we stay true to what we're doing, we know that we're on the right course. And if there are individuals that object to, how we're doing things, it's always important to step back, see if there is something constructive we can take out of it, and if it points to our true north. And I think you did that very well, very quickly, is just realizing like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. You and I were very clear when we had a conversation of what was going to happen and how it was going to happen. And to kind of step away from that after that first, I guess, dissenting remark, it would be very easy to go, oh, okay, yeah, so I think we need to change it. No. We were very clear with the direction we wanted to go, and we were going to play it out to see how it was. And not saying that there wasn't value in the statements that we had, because I think you and I had a very good conversation about it and learned something and said, hey, we need to be more transparent with how we're using these funds so people can understand where they're going to and what we're doing. So yeah, I commend you on that. I think that's a beautiful stance to take, and it is hard to do that, and especially as someone doing your very first tournament with very little direction. So I commend you on that. So what are some of the good things that you took away from it that maybe unexpected happy thoughts or happy notes that came from it?
I think everybody was just really happy just to have a tournament that nobody really had to drive to. I think that was just one of the biggest things that a lot of people said to me and came up, and everybody was just really thankful, which was surprising. I mean, that people were really just that thankful that the tournament was there, and to me, I didn't think it was a big deal. I was just kind of doing my part to kind of help grow the sport and grow the community. But I think that was just one of the biggest things that people kept saying to me is, I didn't have to drive over an hour to the Ridge, or I didn't have to, drive 45 minutes to this tournament, or, go to Milwaukee or whatever. I could just come out for a weekend and it's only 10 minutes down the road. So just people were just really excited. And I think that was just one of my big takeaways, and one of the things that just kind of made me happy was being able to put on a tournament that we could get a lot of people at, just because they didn't have to drive, and it wasn't a big commitment being a flex tournament. And just another couple of people came up to me and just said, hey, they really just needed, to do something fun, something different. Some people going through some stuff. Some people just needed a break from reality, and playing a tournament that they could go to was really enjoyable for them. So I think that those were just kind of the biggest things that made me smile and made me happy. Were not so much even really disc golf related, but just kind of the other external factors that kind of go into these things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, while I was there, that short while that I was there with my two children sitting in a hot car that refused to get out for some reason, there was that gentleman that you and I were talking to that he had started playing, a couple months prior, and he just said, why not? My son talked me into doing it, and he was the MA 65 or 55. He was in one of those divisions.
I'm not sure what division, but yeah, he ended up swinging back through after because he found another disc on the course, and just thanked me again for that he had just such a great time, and he said he was going to sign up for more tournaments. So that was awesome.
That's awesome. That's great. And that's nice to be able to spark that, and especially in someone that's so experienced in life, and to find disc golf so late, that's great. All right. So now here's the fun question you get to answer. What are some things that me as let's say a helping hand or mentor, that I could have done better, or you thought I did well? And I think I'm not looking for kudos. I'm just looking for bringing light to someone else that wants to try to start something else in an area that they have somebody that they can lean on. What is some stuff that I did well and things that I could do better?
So I would say the biggest thing that you did well, of course, was just kind of sticking to your guns as to, no, you need to do this. And I mean, you and I were very transparent from the get-go of, you're going to help me. That's all you're doing. So I would say that was, you stuck to your guns. This is my role. And, you also just, the biggest thing is that you just provided connections to different things that I just didn't have. I'm just some guy who had a little bit of ambition, but you obviously have more connections in the disc golf world to connect me with people. And obviously you've worked, you ran a tournament before I did, and you've been a part of a lot more tournaments, and you have connections with tournament directors. So I would say just kind of using your resources, and then also just sticking to that role and providing that resource was definitely the biggest thing you did well, is just helping me get from point A to point B, just with all the connections and purchasing the players pack and setting all those things up for me. You were very transparent as to, I'm doing it this is how we're going to do it, because this is what makes the most sense. And you kind of just showed me, and then we got everything set up, and then I just kind of drove from there. So I would say that was definitely the biggest thing, is just you provided the resources that I needed.
Right. And to give context, so you had reached out to a couple tournament directors in the state, and I happened to be on that list. And I responded back to you, and then from the get-go, so it doesn't sound, we basically had a conversation, and you said, I just need a helping hand. I need some guidance, but I want to be the person that does because I want to learn. And I want to be able to do this on my own. And I said, absolutely, I think that's fantastic. This is what we do. We grow the sport. So as far as door disc golf, it doesn't put us out. And then I turned around and said, I'm a busy dude. Like, I got a lot of stuff going on. And Howard is 1 hour-ish away from us. And I said, I can definitely help you out in any way, shape, or form, but there are going to be some limitations. And that was the very first couple conversations we had. And so I think you and I having that good conversation up front, I think helped clear up a lot of stuff, because I think unmet expectations are some of the biggest issues that people have when they're working with other people, especially when they're not communicated. And I think both you and I did a very good job in just communicating those up front. And if there was a new expectation that came up, we immediately said who's going to be responsible for it. So nice job on that. I think that was great. It made it really easy to work with you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the biggest thing was we also just really quickly learned the most effective way for us to communicate. I mean, initially we started out doing emails, but we're both just busy people, and emails get lost in the shuffle. So we both just started realizing this is dumb. Let's just text each other. It makes it so much easier. Yeah. So I think that's like just a big thing, just in life in general, but especially if you're going to start a tournament or starting a venture with somebody, especially somebody that's an hour away, is definitely figure out the best mode of communication from the get-go, so you're never lost in that regard. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. Don't be shy. If there's anything that I could improve on, what do you think that would be?
So I think really the only thing was that when we were initially starting the Players Pack conversation, things kind of went on like this winding road of like, we talked about doing like a grip six belt, and then we talked about doing a couple other things, and it didn't really get super clear where the direction we were going was until the end, and I feel like that was just like the only thing.
Right.
Because like obviously you have connections to different manufacturers and different things, and you just said, I'll check in with this person, and then it just didn't kind of really go anywhere. And then at one point we were talking about getting stock stamped discs from Dynamic, and then that kind of fell off. So just that would be just my only thing was just sometimes there was just things going in different directions, and I didn't really know where things kind of stood with some of those aspects of it. And I know that a lot of it had to come down to with just our initial plan was doing a stamp disc, and then that kind of fell off. So then we had to pivot. So obviously, there was some pivoting involved, but that honestly was just my only thing. Yeah,
and that makes sense. And for most people that know me, I live in this dream cloud in 90% of my life. I live in this what if, how about, like living in these possibilities that may or may not come to fruition. And I think that's something that it does frustrate a lot of people. And it's something that I need to control. I need to do better at. I need to step back and say, okay, I'm living in this wonder state that a lot of people just don't get. They take it as this is what we're going to do, where I'm actually just pitching ideas. And I need to be more clear about saying, hey, these are the ideas that I have. Let's throw them at the wall. Let's see what sticks, And I think you did a very good job with rolling with that with me, and especially not knowing my personality in that regard. So that's great. That's fantastic. But, for the future, then I know, okay, we need to be a little more clear on what we're going to drive towards. And then with the stamps, I thought it was a fantastic idea. We did some great stuff, but then the stamp was beautiful, but then we didn't realize that large negative spaces don't translate well to stamps and certain plastics and all that stuff. So as far as stamping our own discs, it ended up being kind of a a little bit of an issue. But for next time, we know how to design the stamp, so that's great too. So
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, we rolled with it. Everything turned out well. But yeah, like I said, that would just kind of be the only thing is that I think just what I would do differently, and I'm sure that was going to be one of your questions, is what I would do differently is that in an initial like planning session for the tournament, I would definitely set like a budget of like, this is what we want to spend per player. This is where we're going to be at. After we obviously set up like, this is the cap, this is how many people we can handle, right? Like all that good stuff. And then starting to fill in from there as far as, okay, so this is what we've got left. This is how much this is going to cost. Can we adjust? Can we kind of wiggle it around? Because I feel like with us, we were just like, okay, this would be really cool. This would be really cool. And then we got one piece to it, and we're like, okay, well, this is kind of lacking here. Like, is this going to be cool? So, like, let's add this piece to it. So it felt like we were just kind of filling in as we went. So I feel like setting a budget and then filling in the pieces from there would be what I would do differently for the next tournament.
Great. Yeah, and that would have been my next question. So I think that's fantastic. I think I would agree. I think there's certain advantages to being able to understand exactly how much money you could spend potentially with the amount of players that are coming in. Because obviously we want to maximize the spend and the quality of the tournament, the experience that the players get. And at the same time, still not losing money on the back end. And I think we did that very well. I think we were lucky, in that regard, as far as what we got and how we did everything. I think we did it fairly well. I haven't ran the final numbers to finish everything up, but it seems like there's not very much left. So we did it efficiently. And especially after we have the donation. So let's talk about that. So, you had a bag that you were able to donate and sell raffle tickets for. How much did you end up raising?
200 and let's call it 285.
Okay, great. And then the intentions for those cash or that money is going to be?
We're going to talk about it with the village and just see what's feasible, but the money's going to go back into the course. So if you've ever played Pine Crest, or you've ever been down there, there's two bridges that one's on pole 5 and one's on pole 7. And just over time, obviously, like the ground changes, the landscape changes. Those bridges are starting to pull up and they're starting to fall apart. And they're definitely not cart friendly anymore. So we would like to talk to the village about using that money and then some of the money that we have from our Monday League at Pine Crest from our Mulligan pot to replacing the bridges or fixing some of the bridges or, just some general maintenance on them.
Fantastic. All right. So going back into the community, that's great. So JP, you've been quiet over there. Do you have any questions for him or are you just kind of listening?
I've been listening, but I've never been to Pine Crest, so what's the course like?
So the course has really changed out there over like the last 3 years. 4 or 5 years ago, probably 4.5 years ago now, the course underwent a major overhaul in terms of its just layout. So the course went in 2003, and then I'd say 2017, 2018, the course underwent its redesign, and the baskets just moved, and they were original mock tubes from 2003. And then in 2020, a couple years ago, the Green Bay group community and the group that plays Monday Leagues added concrete tee pads with the help of the village. They paid for them. And then this year we put in, with the help of the village, they paid for them as well, brand new Mach 7 basket. But as far as like the design of the course goes, good mix of wooded courses, or wooded holes, I should say, some longer holes out in the open. I'd say it plays a little bit like Wildberry, but if you get into into jail a little bit, or if you hit an early tree, you're gonna be working for a par. But there's a lot of rewarding chews out there that you can get. And it's kind of our iconic hole, if you will. There's an island in the star shape that's got telephone poles as the boundary.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty interesting.
It is.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We're, Joe and I are actually going to go down there Friday. We're going to go play Pine Crest as part of some of the YouTube stuff. So we'll be down at Pine Crest Friday. It's probably in the morning. We're thinking probably get there about 10:30 or 11. But yeah, we're going to play because I haven't played it since they did the tee pads. They finished the tee pads and then you recently put in the new baskets. So I'm excited to get out there and play it. So
yeah, the grass is pretty thick right now. So my advice is always obviously just about to stay on the fairway, but the grass builds up a little bit in the summer, so you'll definitely want to stay in the fairway.
Yeah. Well, and it was just cut the fairways were just cut for the tournament, so it shouldn't be horrible in the fairways. But man, yeah, I was noticing kind of just off the edges. It's you hit a first available or get kicked into that rough, and it could be a rough time getting back out of there.
Absolutely, but it's one of the most rewarding courses that you can play in the area, just because when you score well, you feel like you really scored well. Right.
So, all right. Well, any closing thoughts about that, Ben?
I just had a blast, and I look forward to the possibility of doing another one. I think it's at this point, I'm on board. If you're on board, I think now I just gotta kind of start doing those playing pieces again.
Yeah, I think we have no issues supporting another one, and I know you had already had some conversations with Mike, or even started conversations with Mike. So let's try to get on the calendar for another one. Awesome. All right. So Ben, what I think I'm going to do, just because of the precariousness of the phone and the way everything is working out, I think what we'll do is we'll bid adieu to you. And then we'll finish up the conversation. But we appreciate it very much. Thank you for taking the time. You did an awesome job. I've had nothing but compliments from anybody that I've talked to about what you're doing down there. So keep it up, and we'll keep supporting you the best we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, sir. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you, too.
All right.
Bye.
All right, microphone is off. We are back to JP and I. Awesome conversation. I thought he brought a lot of light. Now, the conversation that we had with him is this is his very first tournament he's ever run. He approached me about it, and we kind of got the vague conversation about it. And from the very beginning, I just said, hey, this is kind of your thing. I'm here to support you. I'm here to give you any of my resources or knowledge, point you in directions that are good. And then we'll help with player packs. We'll do, sponsor the event basically. And he ran with it. It was. I mean, I would say 98% him. So
100 players for our first tournament. It's really impressive.
It did, and it was smooth. When I got there, he was cool as a cucumber. I mean, everything went just awesome. So nice. He did a really, really great job. So look forward to the next one. We're trying to plan for September.
At Pine Crest again?
At Pine Crest again. Because he just wants to bring it into that community.
Okay.
He wants to really support that community. So he's going to try at Pine Crest again. But if not, we're going to try to reach out to a couple other. If we can't get into Pine Crest, then we'll use connections and see if we can get into another park down there. But he seems to enjoy doing it. So I'm all for it. If he wants to put the time and effort into it and I can help and we can help in any way, shape, or form, we will. So, all right. Which one do you want to go? Do you want to talk about Portland, or do you want to go to the listener bag analysis?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Let's just go on down the line. So listener bag analysis. Let's go. We're going to talk about Mike
Dimatteo.
I was going to say it, and you said it first. I was exactly how I was going to say it. I wasn't going to be close. All right. So the question was, JP, if you want to clarify what the call was that we put out there.
Yeah, well, it was actually Mike's idea that he came up with. And he's like, it would be really cool if you guys had a listener bag review where you go through they submit what their discs they're throwing in their bag and everything, and then you kind of go through and maybe help guide or look at their bag and see are there any holes or suggest any discs that might fill some holes or that kind of situation. And I was like, that's a really awesome idea.
I love the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he submitted it, and then I kind of put a call out on Instagram, and we got a couple more people, it seems like. So I'm excited to have this as a segment.
Yeah, I think it's great. And we got two more for sure. And one of them was one of our team players, and Michael Cunningham, and also Ben, actually. He will end up giving us one as well. So We'll chat about his bag. And Michael Cunningham, I love his bag. If there's a bag that I could just hand someone my bag and take their bag, he's a guy that I would do it with. Like, the stuff he chooses is amazing. Now, his top end, his drivers, I can't throw those, but they're a little too fast for me. So let's talk about Mike's bag.
Yep.
Dimatteo?
Dimatteo.
Ooh, I got it.
Yep.
All right. So I like his bag too.
I know. I'm guessing the judges speak to you.
Oh, the judges speak to me for sure. But, a lot of this does because it's Trilogy brand. So let's go through it real quick, and then I'll give you my very first opinion or thought about what his bag looks like. I'll do the putters.
Okay.
So Judge, he has a Classic and a Chameleon in his bag, and he also has a Slammer in the Supreme Plastic. So mid-range?
He's got an Opto Fuse, a Hybrid X Verdict, and a Classic Soft Justice.
All right. In his fairways, he has a Lucid Maverick, a Lucid Glimmer Evader, and a Fusion Felon.
And then I will say this is like the control driver area. He's got a Fusion Vandal, a Fusion Escape, and a Hybrid Getaway.
Perfect. All right. I'll speak upon my very first impression is he sponsored by Trilogy?
No. Okay. So Mike and I talk pretty we've been in contact for quite a while with on Instagram and stuff. So he actually threw a lot of Discmania early, like when he started. Like we would talk all the time about Discmania discs and everything. And through time and during the pandemic, harder to get Discmania plastic. So he ended up adopting a lot lot of DD plastic and really fell in love with it. So he switched his bag.
Okay,
over
so
to
he's
DD.
okay. So and it looks like he is
all DD.
All DD.
Right, not
even just Trilogy, just
well,
DD.
No, actually Fuse.
Oh, the Fuse, yes. That's Lat 64. Okay.
Yep.
Maverick, Evader, Felon. Yeah, everything else is DD. All right. So first thing is, Mike, more power to you if you want to run a single company bag. Like I'm completely fine with that. But man, there are a lot of discs out there, and limiting yourself to just one company, especially if you're not being paid by them, like if that's what you want to do, go for it. Like, cause I'm pretty similar. Like I don't have that big of a discrepancy in my bag. And there was a while where I threw only Trilogy, but that was a choice I made, and I was conscious choice. But just know that you could be lacking in certain areas as far as a disc goes because you're not open up to other brands. The only thing that I noticed in his bag that I felt he could use, because I think he has a good spread of stable, understable, and overstable discs in each one of the categories, except for the mid-range.
Okay.
So it looks like he goes from the Opto Fuse, which is fairly flippy, it's a fairly understable disc, to a Verdict, a Hybrid X Verdict, which is beef.
Yeah.
And a Classic Soft Justice, which is fairly beef.
Right.
Almost zero glide.
I've never held a Classic Soft Justice.
Yeah. So it's funny. Prime and Classic are almost more overstable than Lucid fresh out of the box. But they beat in pretty quick. So then they end up throwing like Jordan's No Ice one.
Yeah.
Or the No Nice.
Yep.
Where they're fairly straight, but they still dump. So what I see here is a Fuse, and then you have a Verdict, Hybrid X Verdict. Now, if it was just a Verdict, I say you fill that gap pretty well. but verdicts are fairly stable. They're more stable than Emax. So, looking at where your fuse, the Hybrid X, the Justice, you would need something between that fuse and the verdict. And I'm going to bring it to Trilogy. I'll stay with DD for you. I would say put a Truth or an Emac Truth. But I think the Truth fits that better because I think your verdict is going to be very close to an Emac Truth. Mm-hmm. So I would say put in a OG Truth. And I think it would probably fit that slot pretty darn well because that's going to be just that straight flyer. The Fuse is a different feel and it's less stable than a Truth from my experience. Mm-hmm. Or you could run an Opto-X Fuse.
Yeah.
Because those have some stability to them. Mm-hmm. And I used to throw those for quite a while. I threw those. But I think the Opto-X Fuse is great. But yeah, I think throwing just a standard regular old Truth into that slot, a Lucid or a Fusion is probably going to be the two that you'd want to throw in there.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yep. But everything else, I think you're hitting some good spots. I mean, I think you have a pretty complete bag. You fill all the roles. But outside of that, other than my critique about trying other plastic, that's it.
It's funny that he grouped not funny, but he grouped the Felon with the Evader and the Maverick because, like, the Felon, the Vandal, the Escape, and Getaway are all 9-speed discs.
Right.
And, like, obviously the Felon is the most overstable out of those 9 speeds. Like, the Getaway is pretty overstable, much more stable than the Escape, and definitely more stable than the Vandal,
yep.
But it's more glidey, right? And then, you could get into, like, a Convict or something, but the Convict's still going to be, like, in between the Escape and the Getaway. Mm-hmm. You don't want that too much overlap. I like the Maverick's good. It's a nice straight flying, low speed disc.
Yeah.
It's 7-speed, I think, right?
7, yeah, it's a 7.
And then you have the Evader, which is more overstable, kind of like a FD2 to me, mm-hmm. Or like an Explorer in that range. No high speed drivers, and I think that's just he just knows his game well.
Right.
But if you were to explore a high speed driver, I mean, for me it would come down to like a disc that isn't in production anymore, and that's the Renegade. Like that's like a pretty decent disc that's you're getting into that higher speed, and it's 11 speed, but it's still pretty understable, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. And they just don't make them anymore, unfortunately.
They don't. Something that was a pretty close replacement is that Sapphire.
Oh, right.
That's a very, very comparable disc.
And they do make the Sapphires now in like a heavier weight.
Yes,
like they used to just be like the easy to use 150. Mm-hmm. Another disc that is kind of around there, if you're sticking with Trilogy, would be like a Northman. It's like a 10-speed,
right?
5 glide, I think, -2, mm-hmm, maybe something like that. Like, mm-hmm, you're not getting like up into like the Trespass, the Sword, that kind of area. Like you might, like if you're throwing, those 9 speeds pretty well, you might have the arm to just bump it up just a little bit.
Right. And I think some of that is going to offer you a little more movement in the field. I don't think it's going to help you too much in wooded courses, but if you're out in a field, like an open hole, it's nice to push into that as long as your arm speed will hold it. For me, I was throwing 13 speeds. I'm down back to 11s now as my primary drivers, 10s and 11s. And my 11 speeds, I need a lot of room for them to work to get full flight out of them.
Right.
Whereas I bump down to the 10s or the 9s, or even in the 7s and go to the FDs. Like, I love those things because I can put them on a line and they stay on a line with my arm speed. So I think that's some of the compromise you'll have to have if you decide to go up that way. But if you know that your top end is a 9, I think he's doing some great things. But I think, like you said, you jump into the Sapphire, the Boatman, they're great discs. Mm-hmm. Great discs. And they fit the same plastic. They have the same feel. So
right. And the other thing is we don't know, how many of each. He didn't put how many of each, like what
and the wear levels.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, he could be layering discs for certain shots,
mm-hmm,
utility discs, whatever. But as far as stabilities go with these discs, like like you said, it's complete. There's not much overlap in this at all.
Right. Yeah, and I have a different philosophy in how I stack my bag. I stack Emax, and I have different levels of Emax.
Yep.
And then I stack, trespasses, or I stack, just recently, but I'll stack drivers, and then I'll have different wares of drivers or different plastics of the drivers. And especially like comets. I have 3 or 4 comets. I have 3 FDs in my bag right now, 3 comets in my bag, and they all have different stabilities in them and different plastics. And that's how I stack mine, and that's how I kind of fill those gaps like you have between the fuse and the verdict. Maybe, like you said, stack an Opto-X fuse in there or put a standard verdict in. But I still think the standard verdict is going to be much more overstable than a fuse is. So you're still going to have that gap. Yeah, biofusion
will beat in a little more than that regular fusion and maybe get a little straighter, but it's still going to have that overstable finish for you.
Right, yeah. And that biofusion verdict will be super stable as soon as you buy it, but it beats in real quick. Mm-hmm. And the beauty about the biofusion, at least the ones that I've ever owned, is that they only beat into a certain point. Like, they don't get crazy flippy.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Because I have one as well, and, like, I noticed that, like, it was pretty overstable, but then, it just beat into, like, a good point, and then you still just had that, like, I think it's, like, a 2.5 or 3 fade. So, it still had that.
And I had an EMAC, Biofusion EMAC. I still have it. I just don't bag it, but it seemed like, and EMACs glide for days. They're like a fairway driver. That seemed like it beat more glide into it. It was just incredible. So, but yeah, I think you got an awesome bag here, Mike. Like I said, just try to find something in between that fuse and the verdict. And like, I would go out for an OG trespass or OG truth.
Yeah.
So not the EMAC truth, the regular. And then you suggest going a little bit on the top end, right?
Yeah. I just said if you can find a Renegade or like a Northman or something like that, just a hair faster than your 9s, but still controllable, and you're, something to look into.
Right.
If you're looking to break into the higher speed drivers.
When you're ready. We're not forcing you.
Nope. Not at all.
Yeah, we won't make fun of you that much. All right. So thanks for that. Now we will have, like I said, we have 2 more. We'll potentially get more. If you want to send yours in, throw@doordisc.com or hit us up on one of the Instagram channels, and we'll go over your bag. So we have 2 more for sure. So next 2.
Yeah, and I got 2 more messages that people are willing to send stuff in. So yeah, it sounds like we'll have a couple in the next couple of
weeks. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. So maybe we'll make this a new segment for a little while. And if you get some goodness out of it, awesome. The one thing I do have to say about Mike's bag, though, is that Chameleon Judge, you don't need that in your bag, but I know a place you can send it. Because I don't have a Chameleon Judge. I have a whole row of judges. I probably had 30 judges. And that was water, I promise.
Yeah, it was.
We weren't stepping on ducks.
It's a little squeaky.
Yeah. So, and I've seen those, and I missed them. And I don't know how I missed them, but somehow I missed those Chameleon Judges. Anyways. So, all right, let's talk about Portland. I am absolutely over the moon, and here's your spoiler alert: Simon and Val. Simon again.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wasn't the cleanest win.
No, it wasn't.
Still a W.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how he won.
No.
I think Girthy kind of gave it to him the last hole.
Yes.
But what an awesome win.
It was.
What an awesome
totally
win.
Awesome.
And once again, awesome for Simon. And who is this Isaac Robinson who was hitting every putt from 65 feet? Yeah. Just draining everything.
He played hot round, first round. And then you got to see him the whole rest of the weekend on coverage, which was awesome. Project player.
Yeah. I just did not miss putts.
No.
I saw him miss one putt. It was like a 25-footer and just like caged it.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was the only one that I saw that he missed. Everything else, like, he should leave himself at 60 feet. Because he was so deadly from that range.
Well, how about double G's putting?
Oh, awesome.
He was like
nails.
Yeah, it was crazy. How well, like he's got that hyzer putt. You're like, man, crazy, crazy angle, but he was just nailing stuff. I think he was 30 some percent, like 39, 38% for the weekend from Circle 2.
Yeah. And that's high.
That is high.
I mean, because I think averages, like the highest average is something like in the teens, isn't it? As far as circle 2 percentages for.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And it's someone like Nate, not Nate, Matt Bell.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Nate Bell.
Nate Bell.
It's a local that lives around here.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll go in order. So Simon took first, Double G second, and Isaac Robinson third. So MPO, I had Macbeth, Gibson, Lazat. Not great showing. Is this the right one? Yeah, this is the right one.
Well, Macbeth was up there. He was on
He's in
lead card.
fifth. Yeah.
But then, like, right away off.
3 OBs.
Oh my God, that hole was ridiculous.
I felt so bad for him.
Like, he threw OB, then he threw OB right away again. Like,
Yeah, like he didn't even progress.
No.
And then he threw this, like, I hate this game shot way up in the
Yeah.
air.
Yeah.
And it, like, caught wind or something and just carried all the way OB to the other side.
Even off hole 1, right away, he threw out of bounds.
Yes.
That, like, I was like, oh man,
Yep.
he just took himself out right
He did. So I think that was hole 14. So he threw 3 OB strokes on 14.
I think that's what
The
it was.
very next hole off the tee pad threw OB.
Yeah.
I was just like, I've never seen Macbeth fall apart that way.
Right.
And he was doing very well aside from his putting. His putting just seems so nervy. Usually you look at Macbeth and you say, 60 in, no issues. It's going hard to the chain, it's going to stay. And I think over the last, month and a half, just hasn't been there.
Yeah.
Just hasn't been there. And in this tournament, it showed. I mean, he missed a lot of fairly short putts.
Yeah.
Like stuff that I would have confidence making, and this is the best in the world. I mean, arguably. So, all right. And then you had, let's see, Heimberg, Lazat, and Conrad. Where did Heimberg finish? He ended up like second card, right?
He was on second card. I think he finished in the teens.
Oh, okay.
And I don't remember James Conrad finished.
I didn't see Conrad in the upper echelon when I was
No.
looking, but you got Lazat. I mean, you
Calvin finished 12th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my picks actually didn't turn out too bad. I thought my MPO picks were pretty bad, but they weren't. So then we had FPO was Mandujano, Owen Scoggins, and Katrina Allen. Awesome showing. Valerie Mandujano took it down by 9 strokes.
Yeah. And she was mad that she bogeyed the last hole. She's like, I really won this birdie.
Yeah. Double strokes, but what a killer. Like,
Yeah.
everything was working. Just everything was fantastic. I was so happy, and not only because I put her as third, because I was like, I just feel it. I think she's going to do well. And she just went off, like wire to wire. Never once did she give up the lead.
Yeah. Just impressive. Like, really impressive.
Very clean golf. So Katrina Allen I had for first, Ella Hansen for second, and Val for third. And it ended up being, I got Katrina and Valerie Mandujano switched, and then Ella Hansen, I don't even know where she ended up.
I don't remember either.
So, but this was her breakout tournament last year. So
She was on the feature card round 1,
Right.
with Paige Pierce, Valerie Mandujano, and Kona.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And Kona did
She made the
not
cut, though,
have a
didn't
good
she?
run. Who?
Kona,
I think so.
yeah. Well, that's
But
good.
she did not have a very stellar first round at Blue Lake.
500 G's. Yep. So you had PP, Cat Merch, and Jen Allen. And there's not much to speak about any of them.
No, not really. I think, Kat Merch was like down in 24th and she played herself up to 7th.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The final
That's
round.
good. I'll root for her any day.
Yeah.
I'll root for her any day. She's, like I said, she's awesome. So
Man, so I watched the final round of a little bit of the FPO, like past couple, because we had something going on Sunday morning, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna be able to watch this, so I just got the last couple of holes, and then I watched the whole MPO, and like the swings, man, they were ridiculous. Like the runs Simon would go on a run, and then Double G was like,
Yes.
it was just back and forth, and then hole 14 on just was like the craziness. Like that was crazy, and then 18 was even crazier.
Well, it started out so Simon and Girthy basically separated themselves immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately, they were like they gained another two or three strokes within the first like 5 holes. So it ended up being basically a 2-horse race at that point. I mean, you can never count Macbeth out,
Right.
And the way Isaac Robinson was putting, like, could you really count him out either? But there was really no competition from Chase Card.
No.
Really nothing came from them.
Right.
So, man, it was...
And like Joel Freeman was up there for a little while, but he kind of dropped off.
Yeah.
And I forgot. Yeah,
that was... I mean, I think Heimberg opened the door a little bit, but then just kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
But when you look at just the lead card, and you have Macbeth and 5 strokes going into the last day behind Girthy and Lizotte, you don't count him out on 5 strokes.
No, not at all.
You never count him out on 5 strokes. And all of a sudden, it was 8 strokes.
Yeah.
And they finished almost... Well, he was 25, and they were
30.
So 9, I think 34 or 33. Or,
yeah, something like that.
No, it was 33 because they lost the stroke because both of them bogeyed the last hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it went great, and then 14 happened, and then they lost even more strokes. Like Paul went on 6 birdies in a row. I mean, he was coming hard. Like he was just going at it, and then he got that 7. No, he got the snowman.
8.
He got the 8 on 14.
Right.
And then bogeyed the next hole. So he lost 5 strokes right there.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, but let's go to the positive. I mean, Lizotte and Girthy. Both of those guys are awesome for the sport.
Garrett Girthy was throwing the gator.
Yes.
He had that glow gator that you just almost every hole. Like you just see that green disc flying through the air. There's an awesome, I think it was hole 1 again. I think it was 3rd round. He ended up throwing it, went a little too straight, and it hit off a flagpole. Did you see that?
Yes,
and
I did.
And it just happened to stay in bounds. Yeah, it just got a favorable kick. That was awesome.
And it's nice to see Girthy up there because I think the last time was the 2020 Vegas was, I think, the last time you saw him even in contention for anything.
Right.
So it's great to see him up there.
But I just question 18. He and Simon both end up going out of bounds early, and then he threw that Sonic forehand, and it just held.
Was that a Sonic he threw?
I thought it was a Sonic.
Okay.
The one that he was trying to forehand it up to the hole, and it just held the line and never came back in bounds.
Well, and when you speak of Garrett Girthy, the one thing that comes to mind is forehand.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Why rely on that? He has that Rock 3 that he can put on any line in any way, shape, or form, and it goes where he wants it to go. He has the Sonic. He can basically make that thing do anything he wants it to do. And his forehand, I mean, I'm sure it's better than mine.
Right.
But, man, his form is crazy with those forehands. Like, he has kind of that little ballerina hop at the it's this weird thing that I don't think he's fairly comfortable doing it, so why not? And I think he thought it was a safe play. It'll come back and bounce no matter what.
Right.
Especially with the wind the way it was pushing.
Yeah.
But, man, he just...
Well, and then he, his next shot ended up behind that tree that's close to the basket and left himself probably a good 45 feet.
Yeah.
And ended up... Did he cage the putt? Is that what happened?
Based it. He put it at the base.
Yeah. And then, Simon just had to lay up, and he got the win. So
exactly. Yep. Yeah. But good. I mean, awesome to watch. It was nuts.
Yeah.
Like, I was sitting on my phone, and I casted it to the TV, and I was just like, I got to watch this. Well, it was really awesome.
I like Blue Lake. That's a great course. But, Glendoveer, right? That's what, yeah. It was awesome the way they designed that course because you had a couple holes where it was okay, you're going up the fairway or whatever, but then they had holes in between the fairways, in the trees,
right?
And it felt like you were actually in a forest, like wooded golf.
Right.
Like you kind of lost sense that they were actually on a golf course. Like that's how kind of cool the holes were.
Yeah. And there were a decent number of roller lines, but compared to last year, I feel like this course is completely different. I don't know if they're worse same holes or not.
I think Dustin made quite a few changes.
I think so. I mean, it was.
I know I saw Katrina, she tried to play a roller on a couple holes that didn't quite pan out for her. But yeah, there were a lot of roller lines. And like the other crazy thing was, I think Big Germ mentioned it on Joe Mez, like the final round, but like the colors, like you look and I was like, wow, everything's like super green, but like very bright green, like almost yellow where it like almost hurt your eyes.
Right.
It's like eye strained, like looking at like, oh man, this is really, really green. Like
it was beautiful. Like I kind of fell in love with that course. Like I really liked it last year, but this year on another level. Like it made me want to go play it.
Yeah.
It was just awesome. Can we make a quick side tangent about commentary?
Okay.
Ian and Philo, they missed the ball this time. Like I didn't enjoy, because I think both of them were way too stuck in color.
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy, I mean, let me preface this. I enjoyed every bit of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a real big problem with it. Just being analytical about what was going on. Like some of the stuff was just crazy. And the one that got me, and I saw it on Twitter and I had to go back and listen to it, it was like cheese on bread.
Oh yeah.
And he said it like 5 times.
Yeah.
Because I just started a Twitter account so I could follow Innova from Factory Store.
Okay.
So all these threads, like I don't even know how it goes, like these tweets or whatever were popping up. And I saw the one about like, hey, does Philo know that cheese on bread isn't a thing or something?
Grilled cheese sandwiches,
And I was
man.
like, yeah. It's like, I think he meant to say like butter the bread or put the butter, or something like that, And I was
like
just
it's spread. It's just easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, just smooth and easy, I was just like, cheese on bread. And then I had to go back and listen to it. And he said it like 4 times in a row.
He did. Yeah.
It was like, I was like,
oh, that's just cheese on bread. That's just like, oh my God.
It was just so funny to me. So,
well, you know what else happened for commentary? Lane King was back.
how did that go? Did she call anybody and tell him about anything yet? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I didn't hear a whole bunch, but
okay.
She was okay, I guess. Started like at the end of the tournament, it was like, oh yeah, it's so great, and then she kind of went on a tangent about her like playing, for a while and comparing herself to the other women, and it was fine, but
yeah, and I don't mind that perspective, but I don't know if live commentary is the appropriate time for that, because I like to hear about that type of stuff, how the game has progressed and how it's changed, and oops, sorry, mic test. How the game has progressed and changed, but during live commentary, I'm just really not sure that that's the appropriate time or place.
No,
So, but all in all, I give it an A+. I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed every bit of it, and I think it even makes it better when we have text chains going on back and forth about it, and it's awesome.
It's fun.
So, all right.
I was going to tell you, another Portland thing, did you watch the OTB skins at all?
I didn't, no. It's on my list to watch.
It's awesome.
You can say something.
Oh.
That's fine with it. I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, Gavin Babcock, $10,000 ace.
Shut up.
Yeah, hole 4.
Did he take his shirt off?
Yes.
Okay, I saw the picture of that.
He is Nico, Nate Sexton, and Alex Russell.
Okay.
That was the card. So hole 4, he threw a P model US, just a slight turnover, just really straight. Also, he gets this little turn and just boom. And it's so funny because before the hole, Nate's talking about it. He's like, oh yeah, when I used to go on tour with P McBee, we'd joke about aces and all this. And he's like, well, like making extra money and who's taking who out to dinner and everything. And then just, it was awesome to see.
That's great.
Yeah. It sucks in like those situations because there's not a lot of people on the course to see it with them. Obviously, the camera guys there's a camera guy chasing down Babcock, like yeah, like he's just so pumped. Yeah, he's just so pumped up. He hugs the basket and everything, and it's so cool. And there's a couple spectators behind them, just kind of following, like maybe 5 or 6 people. But Nico actually like really was like genuinely like. Yeah, like pumped up and like he was hyping him up a lot, which was really cool.
I think Nico is the epitome of a good cheerleader. Like he is always super happy for other people doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
And for himself too. But like he's super energy all the time. Like there's a lot I like about Nico. I mean, I think there's some things that I could live without, but for the most part, good dude. Like I would love to sit down and have a conversation and just chat with him. All right. So outside of that, we had our tournament talk. We went over Portland. So we do have a random question. We can go over that real quick. Yeah. So if Saudi Arabia started a pro tour that would compete with the U.S. Pro Tour, but would pay 10 times more, would you support it?
I mean, we're always talking about getting more money in the sport. I mean, if it pays. I know where this is going because obviously there's a lot of human rights issues and things with Saudi Arabia and the way they treat.
Oh, is that what it?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, well, obviously too, the PGA and there's a new golf league called the LIV. I don't know much about it, but quite a few players from that are going over to this LIV that is run by some person in Saudi Arabia. And they're catching a lot of flack. You know, a lot of these top players are like, well, you know, I'm going to play this because money and, you know, they're not like Dustin Johnson, big one that's moving over, Phil Mickelson, and there's one other person, I forgot who it was, but yeah, they all are going over this. Phil Mickelson apparently got, he was offered $200 million to go over to this new tournament rather than be on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
So they're offering quite a bit of money. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd support it if it's a ton of money.
So yeah, when I read it, I kind of assumed, I was like, am I not up on my news? I'm obviously not. I kind of assumed that's where the question was coming from. You know, for me, with this whole Saudi Arabia thing, like, as a region, if Saudi Arabia, like, I don't know. Like,
That's another hard thing, because, like, I don't know the backstory on the country. And, like, obviously there was some, like, reporters and people that were killed there a while ago. And I don't know if that was... I'm guessing it's mostly Saudi based, like they are the ones that did it because there's probably some like bad press or something. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know the whole story politically, what that's all about.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think as long as the individual or individuals that are starting the tour don't have shady backgrounds, absolutely.
Right.
If there's direct ties to shady backgrounds, no. Like, because if it's blood money or drug money or something like that, then no.
This happens with a lot of other sports as well. Like there's a lot of, especially right now in English football, there's a lot of people from the Middle East that are kind of buying into teams with like, you know, oil money or whatever. And then there's like families like, I just saw today one of the like Walmart heirs is going to buy the, I think Denver Broncos or something for like $4.6 billion. Sorry, not million, $1 billion or something like that. It's just crazy, like the amount of money that is put
Ryan
into.
Reynolds owns a soccer team.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
so, not all bad people.
No, not all. But I mean, if your goal is to make money and one tour is, you know, paying out bigger purses, that's your goal. Go for it. You know, or if you want to let other people go there and stick with the DGPT and like you're after wins or prestige or whatever is that way and you feel like you're making a good living that way, stay on that tour. You know?
Yeah.
Just preference, really.
So this may make me a bigot, but I don't. You have to do what's best for your life.
Right.
Because you can't take care of anybody else until your life is taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So if players choose to, I'm not going to hold anything against them. You know, it's a lot of this. There's a culture out there that says if you're associated with something that's bad, you're bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not true.
No.
Might be, but it's not true. Just because you're associated with that doesn't mean that that's the case. You know,
You have to differentiate yourself from that, though, which is kind of difficult. But
it is. It definitely is. Yeah. But I mean, people can make arguments that every entity has a negative impact on something.
Yeah.
You know, and you can make that argument. Everybody can make that argument. I mean, people could make that argument about my businesses, that I have a negative impact in one way, shape, or form, and people should be against me. Now, with that being said, I'll take it to the one level up, is that I think if there is another league or tour out there that can compete with and raise the bar of what's currently happening, more power to it. I think it should happen. If it's in Saudi Arabia, it's in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
If it's in Canada, it's in Canada. They'll say thank you.
It's going to be hot.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
can't imagine, 100 and some, probably like up in the 120s, playing disc golf in 120 degree
Right.
weather.
I mean, it's like people complain about Vegas.
Yeah.
It's going to be Vegas with fewer trees.
Oh,
And
yeah.
probably Vegas with fewer trees and hotter.
Well, that's one of the big reasons. So Qatar has the World Cup this year. It's supposed to start in like a couple weeks, but since it's so hot, they're actually starting it in November.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the first time it's ever happened that they're changing
Just
the
'cause
time
it's
of
so
the year
hot.
because it's so hot.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, I mean, I may have said this on here before, but I remember riding my bike. We got let out of school. So in Blythe, California, we had heat days. So we had portable classrooms, and they had these huge ACs, like 12 and 14-ton unit ACs. And these little portables, they couldn't keep up with heat and cooling these things down. So they would just call school off. I remember riding my bicycle down the road, and it was 130 degrees.
Oh my god.
One of the hottest days ever recorded.
That's
I think it ended
ridiculous.
up peaking at 132, but we had a large thermostat. We were famous for the largest thermostat in the world at the time. Digital thermostat in the world. Thermostat, no. Thermometer, not thermostat.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't turn that thing down. But there was the largest thermometer at Bank. And I remember riding my bike down the road, looking up at that thing. It was 130 degrees. It was like
It's also
128.
baking in the sun.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean,
but registered temperature on that day was 132 degrees.
that's crazy.
So, nevertheless, that's hot. And that's not, it's a dry heat. No, it's hot. You smoke meats at that temperature.
Yeah.
Like, it's hot. Hopefully you don't smoke meats at those temperatures, but maybe. That's hot. Like, and I think with Saudi Arabia, I think the only reason I would be against it is because of that reason. And the lack of, I don't know the terrain very well, but I think the lack of diversity in the terrain is probably going to make it pretty boring golf.
It could.
So I would probably not like that. But then again, there's a lot of money there. They might have some really awesome indoor stuff.
They might. Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows? Or they might just manufacture some stuff, So make some
could happen.
courses that are built. I mean, because they have some amazing golf courses there.
Right.
So, yeah. So I'm all for it. I mean, like I said, as long as it's not some crazy, outlandish, like morally bankrupt individual that's running it, I'm all for it. And it'll give the Pro Tour a reason to step up their game.
Yeah. That's
So-
true.
All right. I think outside of that, we can get into shop updates. I have none. That's it. So like I said, we're just going to, I already said it already, but Sky God 4s are coming out.
Yeah.
So that's about the only thing we're going to buy this week. I think outside of that, is there anything else?
No.
No?
I don't
All
think
right.
so.
Thanks for listening, and hopefully the audio with Ben was good. I wanted to keep him on longer. I just didn't know how good this audio is going to be, and I didn't want people's ears to be screaming at the end of it. So,
Right.
But with that said, door_disc_golf, night_owls_pod. Those are both of our Instagrams. JP's OnlyFans can be found. You just got to look for it. Outside of that, have a good day. Keep us up par. Peace.